Hello, my name is Emma O'Driscoll, and this year I was able to participate in the social justice internship that Loyola provides. I was able to intern at a small nonprofit called Madonna Mission for the 2020 to 2021 school year, and I was able to participate in every program that they provide and see the multiple levels of leadership to get a well-rounded view of the organization that I was working with. So Madonna Mission offers educational support services to refugees in the Rogers Park area. We have an after-school tutoring program as well as an English as a second language program for the mothers of the students that we tutor. This was a transformative experience for me to see how the nonprofit worked as well as to participate in social justice work and to help me reflect on how I want to do so in the future. My learning objectives for this experience were to engage with the community that I'm living in during my time at Loyola University, while also building strong relationships with the clients, because I believe that clients understand their needs best and that any services we provide need to be community informed instead of staff informed on what we think that the community needs. I also wanted to improve my ability to share opinions and build confidence in my perspective while learning to receive constructive criticism so that I can learn and grow in my professional development. I also wanted to apply concepts from my sociology courses and the degree that I'm receiving from Loyola to the work that I was doing at my social justice organization. So a more in-depth view of Madonna Mission, our after-school program brings in tutors from nearby high schools as well as adult volunteers, and we offer specialized homework assistance while also participating in the program called Reading from A to Z, which provides leveled texts so that students can progress in their reading while they are working with us. In the English as a second language tutoring, we pair different university tutors and adults with the mothers of the students from the after-school program and work through different exercises with them to build on their English language skills. My main responsibilities during my internship at Madonna Mission was to work on the policies and procedures manual. And one of the reflective experiences for me in my internship was how that responsibility changed after about a month or two of my time, because we realized that it was too large of an undertaking for my year-long experience. So I created a blueprint and I helped to compile some resources on how the policies and procedures manual should be created, but that project will be finished after my time at the organization has finished. I also organized a writing group for middle school girls during my time at Madonna Mission, and we met weekly to discuss different texts that we read together and do journaling reflections to help process this pandemic year and have a social space. Another large part of my time at Madonna Mission was beginning a discussion of race because the staff is entirely white and the clients that we work with are from racially marginalized communities. I hosted tutoring orientations to train incoming tutors and then also oversaw the programs that we had virtually Monday through Friday. And I also was able to tutor one of our English as a second language students, which was a wonderful part of my internship. This photo is a picture of the virtual writing group that I hosted every week. And I wanted to feature it because this was a wonderful part of my experience at Madonna Mission. I really loved getting to see the girls every week and process the different challenges and victories that they were having during this year. We did a lot of journaling prompts because I wanted writing to be a skill they were more comfortable with, but also something that felt more relatable to them. Instead of seeing it as something that they only needed to do in school, this was a more fun connection to writing. We also read 2 graphic novels throughout the year. One was Just Jamie by Terry Levinson, and the other was Mooncakes by Suzanne Walker. And both of those books we processed to see what aspects were relatable, what themes they saw through the text, and how much they enjoyed them, because I wanted the reading to be a fun experience for them. And the class was guided purely by what the students asked for, what they thought they needed, and I think that that was my main goal through this process, was to make the group as much of an asset to the students, and not based on what I thought was important. We also worked on interview skills during the group because I wanted to help them to recognize their own strengths that I saw, because it's often hard to see those in oneself. So one of the main takeaways that I am going to be processing throughout this presentation was the racial discussions that I brought up in this organization. So upon my first few weeks of entering Madonna Mission, I had the recognition of the stark difference in the racial makeup of staff and clients, and it helped to spur a lot of different reflections for myself in thinking about different power dynamics that might be present, while also thinking about how the differences in lived experiences for the staff and the clients could potentially impact the services that we provided, because there are different things that we as a staff may not be aware of that would be really beneficial for the clients to have someone with lived experience in that area thinking about them. For example, at one point I was asked to compile resources on how to apply for food stamps, because that was a service that the clients were asking about. And as I was doing research, I recognized that I was ill-equipped with knowing how to do that. And had I been someone who had needed to apply for food stamps in the past, I would have been able to give a much more detailed explanation, and I would have trusted the information I was giving much more. I was also asked to compile resources on how to apply to be a US citizen, and I reflected on how, even as someone who speaks English as a first language and who is almost college educated, the process was not even remotely straightforward. And these are already clients who have gone through the refugee asylum seeking process, and the citizenship application would have been more red tape and hoops to jump through that I did not feel confident I could give good information on to our clients. So thinking about the systemic oppression of different racial minorities, and also the way that that could affect our services, was a large part of the discussions that I brought up in our organization. Because we live in a racially hierarchical society, even when I was not aware of different racially oppressive things that were going on, it doesn't mean that they weren't present. So this year, I was bringing in the knowledge that I've been getting from my sociology courses, as well as different readings that I was doing on how racial oppression shows up in the workplace and in nonprofit work, to try and think about how we needed to be more reflective of how our potential, or my potential ignorance, could get in the way of the services we were providing. My concern was that of potentially being a white savior organization, because of the great intentions of myself and the staff that I was working with in trying to provide educational services for empowerment of refugees. But I was more concerned because the clients that we were working with were not involved in the decision-making process at the higher levels in the organization. And I understand the difficulties that were often the rebuttals to my claims of the challenges of having different refugees informing at the level because of language barriers or because of job constraints. And I learned a lot about how this process is slower than I had wanted it to be, and how I need to change the way that I bring up these discussions to make sure that they are as fruitful as possible and as understanding as possible, because I am so early in my education on racial injustice, and it is a lifelong unlearning of white supremacy. And so I do not think that I made substantive change in this area at Madonna Mission. My role was to start the discussion, but having these reflections throughout this year has helped to guide me in what I want to do with social justice work in the future, and how I need to change my tact in bringing up these discussions so that I can actually make a substantive change if I need to do so in the future. Because I think that these conversations are relevant at every level of every organization in our society because of the intensity of racial oppression. I also recognize that my expectations changed throughout my internship, and I really appreciated my discussions that I had with my supervisors, even if I found them somewhat frustrating at times, because they taught me a lot about how I need to see other people's perspectives in these different discussions, so that when we are having the discussions, I am not coming in with a false sense of superiority on the knowledge of these topics, but am instead coming in with a clear understanding that we have the same goal and we have different ways of getting to it. And so this has been an incredibly rewarding experience for me because of the learning experiences I've had throughout my time at Madonna Mission. But by far the best part of this internship for me was the relationships that I was able to build with the writing group and with the English as a second language student that I had, because they were such a joy to work with throughout this time. And based on the comments that I received from them, that is the place where I feel I offered the best services throughout my internship experience. And I think that I've reflected a lot on how I want to participate in social justice work in the future, and how grassroots community informed development is something that I consider really important and want to involve myself in the future. We learned about a concept called asset-based community development, and that is where communities themselves build on their strengths instead of having an outsider come in and identify their deficits that need to be fixed. And while I think that is not a foolproof system because of the systemic oppression that also needs to be addressed, I want to find the balance of helping communities build on their own agency while also removing the barriers that are put in their place because of systemic oppression. So this experience has taught me so much, and I'm really grateful that I was able to have these discussions and learn from them. But I also am aware of the fact that this is the beginning of a very long journey for so many different organizations, and definitely for myself, on the discussions of racial oppression. Thank you so much.